Hello again. Welcome back to the WIJTECH Clean Air HVAC channel. I want to review some of the CDC data on COVID-19. Look at some of the current trends, whether it's increasing, decreasing. I've got good news and bad news. From there, we're going to briefly touch on the transmission methods of COVID-19. There are three of them. I'm going to see the one that's of most importance, the one that the aerosol HVAC system is designed to address. I'm going to show you the CDC recommendations, what they say we should do to reduce airborne transmission of COVID-19 indoors. There are some problems with those recommendations. I'm going to show you what they are. Not only am I going to show you the problem, I'm going to show you the solution as well. The aerosol system, how it takes care of those shortcomings that the CDC recommendations contain, okay? Here are deaths from COVID-19. On the y-axis, we have the number of deaths. This is the whole course of the pandemic here. There's New York, there's the summer surge, there's the first holiday surge. Spring 2021, vaccines came out, then we start to see the mutations, the Omicron mutations come along. And we had monoclonal antibodies and home test kits, a lot of vigilance. We were able to drive these death numbers down. These are provisional deaths of COVID-19. Provisional deaths mean that they are dependent upon each of the states sending in data based off of death certificates. It's the best data that we can have, death certificates. However, the reporting rate differs between among the states. So this number most likely goes up as time goes on, as more states report. Personally, I don't think the numbers are as accurate as they used to be since the World Health Organization declared the pandemic over. Okay. Here is a chart of the R factor on the y-axis over time. This is this year recent data. The R factor tells us whether or not the virus is gaining on us, whether one person is infecting more than one person, the virus is gaining, or the virus is losing ground, okay? R factor less than 1, the virus is losing. R factor greater than 1, the virus is winning. You can see back here in April, here's the R factor on the y-axis, here's time. Here is 1, the cutoff point between whether we're winning or losing. You can see here where we were winning, the virus was not gaining on us, but now it's crossed over the threshold value of 1. And so now the virus is gaining on us, okay? We're going to see more COVID-19 test results, hospitalizations, and hence we're going to see more COVID deaths. The R factor is going up because the virus continues to mutate. This is the weight percentage of whatever variant we're looking at. And this is data over time. Okay, and you can see the JN1 variant is starting to go out of the system. The KP2, KP3 virus is now starting to become the dominant strand and is predicted to indeed become the dominant strand. It is more contagious. That is why we see the R factor going up. We also see it in the emergency room visits. This chart shows the number of people in the emergency room who have tested positive for either RSV, COVID, or influenza. They come into the emergency room. They're sick with something. They're having symptoms. We know it's RSV, COVID, or influenza. So this is what this chart is reflecting. You can see over here on the end where COVID-19 is starting to trend up. COVID-19 was down, and now our R factor is greater than 1, and you can see correspondingly that the data shows that COVID-19 is trending up. RSV was the leading diagnosis in the emergency room, but now you can see RSV is coming down. You can see that influenza is also coming down. So this reflects the seasonality of RSV and of influenza, where we know that COVID-19 doesn't care what season it is, winter, spring, summer, fall. It continues to mutate and continues to be infectious, and it continues to survive. So COVID-19 is here with us to stay. This next chart shows the percentage of emergency room visits diagnosed with COVID-19 by age group. It's for a long period of time. Here's the most recent data on the end. You can see that for all age groups now, since April, the data is starting to trend up, which is consistent with the R factor that we saw going up. It is also consistent with the mutation of the virus. We see the KP2 and KP3 variants starting to become the dominant strand. Also, what is noteworthy here to take away from this graph, this is the percentage of diagnosed people in emergency rooms with COVID. The leading group, the older you are, the higher percentage of diagnosis of COVID you make up in the emergency room. The younger you are, 15 to 18, the lower the percentage of people you make up in the emergency room that are diagnosed with COVID. So this is what we've always known. If you're older, you must protect yourself. If you're over 60 years old, take precautions. Okay, wear your mask. I know, but it's up to you to take care of yourself. If you have diabetes or some other immune compromised, cancer, recovery, cancer patients, wear your mask. Don't worry about how people are going to look at you, what other people say. It's up to you to take care of yourself. COVID-19 is a public health issue, not a political issue. CDC recommendations. We're going to move into a little bit of CDC recommendations. First, let's look again, quickly review the contact methods. Direct contact, someone coughs on you. Face shield, those social distancing. We saw that in detail in the disease transmission video. Indirect contact, airborne transmission is the number one way that COVID-19 is transmitted indoors. The only protection for that is the N95 mask. That is what the CDC is zeroing in on. ASHRAE is zeroing in on with their new standard 241 for infectious aerosols. And that's where WIJTECH has done its work. We're all looking to combat this indoor transmission of aerosol. You know, during the 14th century, I think it was, the bubonic plague came along, killed about 50 million people on several continents. Come to find out, it was transmitted by fleas. We learned from the bubonic plague that it wasn't that good of an idea now to keep housing people in barns along with animals. People and animals shouldn't cohabitate in barns together. That's what we learned from the bubonic plague. 50 million deaths later. What we should have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 pandemic, is that aerosol transmission spread by HVAC turbulence is what we need to get rid of. Aerosol transmission is what WIJTECH is working on, along with some other entities in our country. It is the primary method for transmitting COVID-19. It's the cause of the 2020 pandemic, aerosol transmissions. Looking at the CDC recommendations for combating aerosol transmissions, we recognize that people got sick indoors and not outdoors. So this is dilution. Open up your doors and windows and maximize HVAC purge rates. That's dilution. That's trying to make the inside like the outside, bringing in fresh air to dilute the concentration of COVID-19 low enough that people don't get infected. Only one problem with that. We don't know what the upper limit is for COVID-19 in a room that above which people get sick. We don't know what the upper limit is. We don't know what the control point is. So that kind of makes it dubious to bring in enough fresh air to dilute the virus down to where it won't be a problem. But nevertheless, we were in an emergency situation, and we knew that fresh air was better, so we went to opening up all of your windows and doors and purging and getting much fresh air into a space as you can. Now we're moving to modify HVAC systems per standard to make purging a routine method for dealing with the transmission of infectious aerosols. We're taking what was a stopgap temporary solution, and we're now integrating it into standards to make it a permanent solution. High purge rates, dilution. When we don't know what to dilute down to, number one. Number two, well, let's look at what dilution does. From a block diagram standpoint, here we have indoor space that we're putting energy in to heat or cool, bringing in fresh air. The standard calls for bringing in so much fresh air per person. The more fresh air you bring in, the more you have to exhaust. In the building, what comes in has equal what goes out. If it doesn't, what goes in is more than what goes out, the building blows up. The amount of energy loss is going to be directly proportional to the amount of exhaust air. Or another way to say it, the amount of energy loss is going to be directly proportional to the amount of fresh air you bring in. Because the amount of fresh air in equals the amount of fresh air out. Okay, so the problem here is we have goals of net zero by 2050. We're doing things, decarbonization of HVAC systems. We're looking to convert HVAC systems from fossil fuels to refrigerants so we can use heat pumps in areas that we couldn't do it before. Excellent work going on in that area. But if we start implementing across the board this temporary solution of bringing in fresh air, purging high purge rates, we won't make 2050. It's not consistent with net zero by 2050. The other problem with this is now when you look at the system operating in infection risk management mode, the purge rates have to be much higher. So you have to have a separate HVAC system that can move enough air to handle the purge rates. When you build that system, you can't turn it down to operate doing normal operations. Turn down is a problem from the high purge rates to normal operation. So the capital investment for buildings are increased by the strategy of dilution. Not only do you get higher energy costs, which we can quantify, you get higher investment costs. We need strategies, policies, technologies that are consistent with overall strategies, long-term goals. So let's just scratch these off the list. The next CDC recommendation for aerosol transmission involves installing MERV 13 filters where possible. So let's look at MERV 13. The recommendation is to go to MERV 13 filters. It's more, the better, high quality filter, the better, yes. But not when it comes to getting rid of COVID-19. MERV 13 can't catch COVID-19 at a high enough efficiency to do us any good. Here is the efficiency from 0 to 100. Well, it's the efficiency divided by 100. It's the efficiency fraction. You multiply that by 100, these numbers by 100 to get a percentage. Versus particle diameter for various HVAC filters. Here's the curve, the performance curve for MERV 13. Particle diameter on the x-axis. SARS-CoV-2 has a particle diameter of 0.1 micron. If you come here to 0.1 micron, come up to the MERV 13 performance line, come over to the y-axis, we get about 49% removal efficiency for a SARS-CoV-2 with a MERV 13 filter. That's not good enough for a virus like COVID-19. It's so highly infectious that you want much better than 50%. You want 99.9% efficiency, not 49% efficiency. Okay, so let's just scratch that one off the list, okay? It's not going to help us much. Now we're left with used portable heaters. Well, that's because this was temporary. Portable heaters was a temporary thing. But what we're looking at here is, let's put in HEPA filters and UVC units and see what that can do for us. Okay, let's take a look at that. Here is standard HVAC turbulence in a space. Maybe you've seen this video before, where you light off a smoke bomb and watch what happens to the smoke. And you can imagine that if someone was in this room with a highly infectious disease like COVID-19, it would be spread to just about everyone in the space. You're blowing the air in from the top at high velocity, creating turbulence. Let's look at it again. Okay. Let's look at it again. The smoke bomb, total time on this smoke bomb is 40 seconds. You see the mix in there. We use mixing in HVAC design to make sure the temperature is nice and even in the room. The problem is it also will make sure that everyone shares everyone else's germ in the room. At the end of 38 seconds, you stand and look back in the corner of this room and you can see where all of this smoke is in the room. Okay. So if you plug in a temporary or a portable HEPA filter here, okay, it's going to start processing the air. It's not going to help you much, because you got to catch this stuff before other people breathe it. You've got to catch it and neutralize the virus before the next guy can breathe it. Okay. So let's just get rid of that one too. Okay. So what do we have left? We have the aerosol system. Here's a schematic of the aerosol system. We use thermal displacement ventilation. We get rid of the turbines. Our body temperatures are 100 degrees. We're in a 70-degree cool environment. The hot air from our body wants to go to the ceiling. As we exhale, hot air from our lungs will go to the ceiling if we get rid of turbulence. In our hot air, that's where any germs are going to be. So if someone's sick inside the space, they exhale, there's no turbulence in the room, the hot air will go to the ceiling. That's what the aerosol system is designed to do. So here are low velocity diffusers. We have to bring the air in at a low velocity so we don't create any turbulence. That allows the hot air to rise. We have a collection pipe overhead in the ceiling, and we have negative pressure on these nozzles, so that collection pipe sucks in the air that rises up. So instead of having turbulence blowing the air everywhere, every direction, what we do is we have a net direction of air from floor to ceiling is what we have here, okay? And that helps, that gets rid of the spread of turbulence, disease by turbulence. The collection pipe takes the hot air into the air handler where it's cooled, it's treated with UVC light. The air is then fed to 2 turbo boosters because we have to boost the pressure up to run this system. The low velocity diffusers take more pressure to run. And so these boosters then feed our low velocity diffusers that are in the room sitting on the floor. We have the ability to bring in fresh air from the outside. We have the ability to purge air to the outside in the system. We set up the diffusers on opposite sides of the wall. This is a plan view looking down. Here's the collection header in the middle, okay, with the nozzles. We have 4 nozzles shown here. Here's a diffuser on one side of the room, a diffuser on the opposite side of the room, same here, so that in effect we set up separate zones in this space. We have 4 zones in this 3,000 square foot space. That prevents you from getting cross mixing of the air between the zones, and we'll be able to see that pattern that prevents cross mixing. We'll see that with smoke bombs. Okay. Give you a view of what the actual system looks like. Here's the collection manifold right here. You can see the collection manifold over here, the collection pipe right here with the nozzles in it, 1, 2, 3. There is another nozzle that you can't see, is over here somewhere. Okay. So the hot air is collected overhead. It feeds into the air handler where we have a UVC light. 25 watt UVC light is all you need. So here is the other end of the collection manifold running into the air handler. From there we go to the turbo boosters. So here we're coming from the air handler, we split, we go to the turbo boosters. The turbo boosters then feed the diffusers that are inside the building, sitting on the floor. We can purge, bring air in. We can also purge air out with the system. Here, diffusers, we have 25 to 30,000 holes in one of these diffuser faces. I'm going to show you what the smoke bomb does, sitting 2 feet, distance of 2 feet in front of one of these diffusers in the next slide. So here's our low velocity diffusers. I left the sound up so you can hear the HVAC system is running. We're bringing in the air. We are not whipping that smoke all over the place. So we would not be spreading a lot of germs with this zero turbulence diffuser. Here's what standard HVAC turbulence looked like. Here's what it did to the smoke bomb, so you have an ABA comparison. It's a video that you saw earlier. This is the video that shows you can put a HEPA filter in this room and it won't help you much with preventing the spread of disease. As you add additional HEPA filters in the room, the only thing you do is you make it noisier. Okay, because a HEPA filter running at about 500 cubic feet per minute is going to be putting out somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 75 decibels. You won't be able to use the room with a lot of HEPA filters in it because you won't be able to hear, you won't be able to talk. You have to talk over those filters. So all of our systems have to pass the smoke test. What we do is we light off a bomb and we watch the currents in the room. We want to make sure we're not getting a lot of mixing in the system. We want to make sure that the collection pipe is doing its job, because you can only kill what you can catch. You can have 99.99999 efficiency in your kill system, but it doesn't make any difference if you can't catch the virus before someone else has a chance to inhale it. So you can see here, we light off a smoke bomb, watch the smoke patterns. So this is from the height of a seated adult here, the smoke bomb. You can see the air is rising, there's no mixing going on. So if someone was sitting next to this person, right here, someone was sitting next to this guy, and on the other side of this person, you can see they will not be breathing this person's germs, because this person's germs are going up in the air with the hot air. And you can already see this 40-second bomb before it has finished burning. You can already see that you can see the plume is lopsided, right? It's more on this side of the plume over here, because you can see the effect of this negative, this nozzle here is starting to pull the smoke already. You can see the effect of that already. So what we want to see is this smoke now gets pulled over into the collection manifold is what we want to see. Of course, now the smoke bomb has finished burning, so that means 40 seconds has passed, and you can already see that this stuff is starting to be pulled over to the collection header. In this diagram here, you can see the first two nozzles here picking up the smoke. Okay. The next diagram, you can see the zones actually created overhead. Okay. There's no cross mixing. You're not going to get cross mixing in between zones here. This is going to avoid the cross mixing, okay, in between the zones. Here's another view of the smoke bomb after it's finished burning. You can see that we clearly have established what we want to see called stratification. And you can see that the nozzles are doing their job. They're collecting the smoke. This system was installed in a church sanctuary in November 2021. It's been running since then. To date, there have been no outbreaks of COVID-19, RSV, or any other airborne transmitted disease. There's been no outbreaks since this thing's been running. So the system's proven and tested. We know that churches were notorious for being super spreader events. This church had an event here in Charlotte. It infected 100 people, and this church was shut down in 2020. 100 people were infected from a weekend event. Okay, so in summary, we took a look at the CDC data. We've done an excellent job reducing deaths. I do believe the death numbers are underreported, but nevertheless, we have done a great job. vaccine distribution, home kits, awareness, monoclonal antibodies, all those things have come together to give us an excellent result. Good news. Bad news, Omicron is still around, it's still mutating. When it starts to die out, it mutates again, and then it starts to come back. It's a bug. Bugs know how to survive. It's with us to stay. We have to deal with it. We have a method now to do it. There's only one way to clean up indoor air spaces. It's only one way to do it, because there's only one thing for you to exploit, and that is the temperature difference between the human body and the cool surroundings inside of a conditioned enclosed space. And that's how the aerosol system works. So, in conclusion, WIJTECH projects, we own the technology. We'll be happy to consult with you, design you a custom system if you like. If you are a manufacturer and you're interested in licensing this technology, we'll be happy to talk to you about that as well.